For the last two problems, we'll just use the calculator and the p-value method to do this. You can actually use a calculator and the traditional method as well, but I'm just going to stick with the p-value method. Alright, this is a proportion problem. Significance level, 10% of the population is left-handed, and you have some data. You're given your x and your n. So with the proportion problem, we're looking out for stuff like that. So our first step, step one, is 10% of the population is left-handed. And in symbols, we would write P for proportion is 0.10. And so your opposite of that is not equal to symbol. And step three, the important step, is to identify which one is your null hypothesis. And your null hypothesis is the one with the equal to. Your alternative hypothesis is the one with the inequality. And just for good measure, you identify your claim here. So step four, your significance level. Usually it's 0.05. In this case, they want you to be a little bit more precise, 0.01. Your test statistic that you'll be using, we actually won't need this. That's a test statistic. So our test statistic is actually a z distribution, and it's p minus p hat. Or is it p hat minus p? P hat minus p divided by pq over n, all of that under square root. So we would know our x in this case is 18, our n is 170, so our p hat we would know by dividing x over n. By the way, if you're given the p hat and the n, just a little side note here, and you want to, for some reason you want to find out what x is equal to, x is equal to p hat times n. And remember that x is a whole number. So if you decide that you want to use a calculator for that, then you'll need this information if you're given different kind of data. Alright, we're going to use a p-value method. So in the p-value method, we don't need any drawings. We don't need to look up at our table and try to find our critical values. We don't need critical values. All we need is the p-value and your significance level. And for the p-value, we will actually use a calculator to find our p-value. So let's take out our calculators. As soon as the computer would let me. And our calculators. We're going to go to stat, test, 1 prop z test. This is a proportion, and we're using the Z distribution for this. And we are asked for our P sub 0, our P, our proposed claim. And then we saw 18 out of 170. Oops, excuse me. 18 out of 170 students. And this is our, again, this is our alternative hypothesis. So let's take a quick picture of this so that we can send it to our notes. And let's quickly go back over there and finish it. Calculate. Oops. And this is the information that we're going to need. Okay, so I have a couple of things that we need to bring down here. We have the input information, and this is the output information. So when you're doing this, again, I would like to know what command you're using on a calculator. In this case, the command you're using is the one prob Z test. And I would like your test statistic, call it TS, and it's a Z test statistic, 0.255. And if you were doing the traditional method, you would take this number and compare it to some critical values in a graph. But you're not, you're looking at the p-value, so we're looking at the p-value. And the p-value is 0.798. Okay, in step 7, what we want to do is we want to make our decision whether we're going to reject or fail to reject, and it's based on the p-value. So p-value is greater than, so since the p-value 0.798 is greater than significance level 0.01, in this case, we fail to reject. The null hypothesis. Okay. So given that information, our last step, step number 8, is our conclusion. And I referred to the flowchart a bunch of times, or in a couple of problems, and I didn't actually show it. So this time I'd like to show the flowchart here. This is the flowchart that I've been referring to, and at the end of the problem in step 8, what we want to do is go through a process of asking yourself some questions and then using the exact wording here. So does the original claim contain a condition of equality? In this particular case, we said 10% of the population is left-handed, so yes. We said p is equal to 0.10, that's our claim. Did we reject the null hypothesis? No, we did not fail to reject it, so there's not sufficient evidence to reject the claim. So this is our wording, and we want to use the original wording that they gave for the claim. So the wording goes, there is not sufficient evidence to warrant the rejection of the claim that. Now, instead of dot dot dot, I would like for you to use the actual wording that they have. That's why in step one it's always good to write the claim in words first before symbols. So let's write it in words. 10% of the population is left-handed. Okay, so this would be our conclusion, and this would be the final step for your hypothesis test. This is problem number 10.